people, and then I will hopefully be able to get everything fixed up here. Turn that off, and beautiful. There we go. All righty. So hopefully this live stream will go smoothly. YouTube will allow this to go on, so to speak, without any kind of major technical difficulties. And I should be able to see your all your chats coming up in here. But we're going to give it a little bit more time for people to come on into the chat. One of the things that actually this is Ask the Nick, and of course you can ask me anything. Feel free to drop any comments in the chat there. But one of the questions I actually have for you all, I'd like you to answer in the comments as you're watching this later on. My biggest question that I have is as follows. I've noticed a strange pattern lately on the channel. I've noticed that by and large, the videos that are most popular, the videos that are most watched, that have the longest view times, as well as the most number of views, tend to actually not be the review videos, but they tend to be things like, my collection overviews. I see why that gets some viewership. But they also, things like the philosophy videos, things where I'm talking about ideas, things where I'm talking about, those kinds of things seem to be a little bit more well responded to, frankly, than a lot of my reviews lately. And of course, I'm going to keep doing reviews. That's kind of what I do. And in fact, I've got some cool stuff here for review. I've got a Shirogorov Neon Zero, their newest version of the Shiro Neon, just to see how it compares. They got a Cheburkov Strij right here, which is a pretty cool looking piece here, as well as the Hogue Ritter RSK Mark 1, or I'm sorry, this is Mark 2, knife right here, very interesting piece, as well as some old friends here. But, I'm going to keep doing reviews, but I'm really getting the sense that people are liking the philosophy videos, that kind of stuff, even a little bit more than some of the reviews, and especially reviews of stuff that's not, super hot right now, so to speak. So my temptation is to do a little bit more of that. Oh, and by the way, I got this guy in for review. This is a GSD Designs, Greg Stevens Designs, what the heck is this even called? I don't know the name of it, but it's by GSD. It's on his Instagram. But anyways, really neat little watch here, and got a lot of cool stuff going on. But anyways, I'm kind of leaning towards doing a little bit more of that in that direction. Focusing a little bit more on the philosophy videos and, doing the reviews of really exceptional gear, but maybe leaving some of the mid-range a little bit further behind. I don't mean mid-range by price, by the way. There is truly exceptional gear on the budget end. This is actually one of them. This is a knife I got to handle at the USN show. It is a CJRB, which is Artisan Cutlery's budget line, but it is a brand new knife from them in D2 steel for like $35 that is really freaking good. So I definitely want to keep doing budget reviews where they're excellent, but kind of focusing my interest in that area. So thank you very much, Connor. Now I've got 93 people in here already. So that's excellent. One thing I wanted to sort of say before we get too deep into the questioning is that there are going to be a lot of questions rolling by, and I may miss yours. Feel free to repeat it. Please don't go into all caps, because that doesn't help and just makes you seem like a jerk. I will try my best, certainly, to get all of the super chat questions. You're welcome to do that. That would be a very, your generosity is appreciated. But I'm going to do my best to get to a lot of the questions, but I still may miss yours, and it ain't personal. I just have about a bazillion of them scrolling by at any given moment there. So there we go. Let's see here. Zach F. asks a really good question. Hey, Nick, if you could ask any single person in history one question, knowing that you'd be getting an honest answer, who do you ask and what is the question? Oh, boy. At some level, maybe the obvious choice would be to ask USA, of course, of USA Design. Oh, this is a custom design. I always forgot. This is his friend, Cuss Tom. Ask USA what the heck he was thinking when he did, all of that. But that would be one approach. But one question for any human in history. Man, there were so many good ones. Like, because you could go in terms of, you could certainly find, leaders of the great faiths and ask them questions, and just that would be revealing, but that would also be a little controversial, so to speak. And frankly, these days, I'm pretty sure people wouldn't believe them. If it didn't agree with it. Anyways, I digress. You could do that. You could go the political route. Hey, guys, what do you really mean by that chunk of the Constitution right there? Is this what you had in mind? Those could be interesting questions as well. I mean, there were lots of really excellent things out there. But honestly, oh man, you're killing me over here. There are so many great questions that I could ask, and being limited to just one would be really, really, really difficult. Ask Ben when he's coming back to Blade HQ. I hope he's very, very happy. This is a reference to Ben over at Blade HQ. Ben Banthas over on Insta. He's a great human and recently decided he was going to choose a different direction, and I hope he's very happy doing that kind of thing. But anyways, there were a whole bunch of really great questions out there. I'll rephrase the question to something I can answer, which is who would you like to have a conversation with? There are a bunch of people I'd love to have good conversations with. Ranging from, great intellectual leaders. Alan Turing would be a really cool guy to talk with. I feel like it's a total shame how he was treated and all of that, but it's also, I think it would be fascinating to sit down with him and show him modern technology and get his take on it. Salvador Dali, I'd love to sit down with dinner with. I think it would probably be really annoying, but also pretty cool. Just because, Dali. There were a bunch of interesting people there out there in the world. But yeah, those are a couple of them that come to mind. Yeah. Let's see here. A huge fan of the channel. Thank you very much, Connor. What would I recommend as a first neck knife? So, Connor, I've actually got a video about small EDC fixed blades, talking about why, at least in my life, neck knives don't tend to make a lot of sense for me. That doesn't mean that they're not going to make a lot of sense for you. They may not be a great thing, but at the same time, there were some really nice choices. The EC, I want to say it's not the Zancudo, it's not the Azula. Oh God, that's right. It's the Kangaroo, named after the fish that swims up your. Yeah. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, the EC Kangaroo. By the way, if you ever want to be terrified by something, Google Kangaroo, Candiru, or a vampire fish is the other name. Yeah, that's awkward. Anyways, that's a pretty decent choice. There were a lot of really nice little neck knives out there, though. If that's your scene, it really depends on what you're looking at for. Let's see here. Watch questions allowed. Absolutely, MJ. Connor Smith says, I meant to send this with Super Chat. If you had to buy one of your best friends a knife as a starter for his collection he wants to start up, what would you buy? Connor, that's a really excellent question. So a good pocket knife, and I'm just going to go ahead and assume this person's got sort of an average use case. The big question there is going to be the price range, and you're welcome to give me a price range that you're thinking about right here. But there were a couple of really nice options. One of them is, let's see here. This little guy right here. This is a Civivi Backlash. I'm sorry, no, this is the Praxis. But a Backlash or Praxis will give them a knife that is substantially good, but will also give them something with a very nice action that'll get them started, and it will be a great choice for them to carry on a regular basis. Another really excellent choice would be the Ontario Rat number 1 and number 2, just because, again, this is a high-function sort of piece. It gets them a lot of pocket knife for relatively little price. And also, the other big thing I would recommend that you get them is a sharpening system. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to do like a KME, but even like a Lansky little turnbox guy or a Spyderco Sharpmaker or a Golden Stone or something like that. Teaching them how to take care of their tools might actually be even more important than getting them a great first tool to start with. Because if they get a knife, even if it's a great knife, and then it goes dull and they stop using it, that's a bigger problem than anything. Teaching them how to take care of their tools, although, it's not that unintuitive, may be even better for them than buying them something really super fancy. I mean, sure, you give them a Shiro Neon. Sure, you get them a freaking, Grimsmo Norseman if you wanted to. But honestly, I think they'll get a lot more out of something that is a bit lower price, but it also comes with some tools to help maintain it. So that's a beautiful thing. A great question, and hopefully I've answered your question there. He clarified with price range, $75 to $160. That actually makes it a little bit easier. In that range, you can get into some really good stuff. You can get into like your Spyderco Chaparral, which is a really good piece. You can get into your TRM Atom. This is by the way, this is the TRM Atom with the fluted carbon fiber scales, as well as a much more reflective blade. Oy, oy, oy. But anyways, it is an absolutely beautiful piece. And if you can pick, these guys are a little bit pricier. But if you can end up with an Atom, which is just a little above your price range, that's a really good way to start and possibly even end a collection. So, those are definitely options, but there are lots of really good choices there. Tommy D asks, hey, Nick, thank you very much, Tommy, for the generous donation. Will you do a video about the Ferrum Forge Malice? And what are your thoughts about Sharpening D2? I find it quite frustrating. So ferrum forged malice. Yep, absolutely 100%. This is a We Knives. It's called the We Knives malice. But it's done in collaboration with ferrum forge. This is a great piece. It's a big old knife. Oh my God, is it a big one? However, it is absolutely very, very, very good. If you want something that is a little bit overbuilt but is still relatively designed and cuts well, it is a good performing knife. That's a really easy recommend. In terms of your big overbuilt frame locks, that's one of the ones I'm going to be sending the people to for a while now. A little pricey, but it's quite good. But my review will be coming. I don't quite know when I'll air it, but it is filmed and it is good. It is a good freaking knife. What are my thoughts on Sharpening D2? I find it quite frustrating. You know, Tommy, D2 is not that bad in the grand scheme of things to sharpen. One of the things this might be doing is revealing weaknesses in your technique or in your system. You know, it could be, for instance, that if you have a relatively, well, I don't want to say lower end, but if you've got a system that doesn't quite have the power, that is, to really do some good cutting, you might find that very difficult. The other thing is you might find that you're dealing with hardness that's a little higher than you used to. And so what I recommend to you is that, you know, D2 sharpens a lot like any other steel. It's just a question of using the right tools as well as using the right techniques, and hopefully you'll get there. But, you know, sorry to hear it's giving you some trouble, but you can definitely move past it over a while there. Let's see here. Paul Munko asks, do you think S110V would be serviceable on a turnbox with diamond rods? What's your take on S110V? I just got a pair of 3. I'm kind of nervous, LOL. LOL indeed, my friend. Look, no need to be nervous. The first thing about S110V is you're not going to need to sharpen it all that often. It's a steel that'll tend to hold an edge, especially if you're not being too cruel to it, that is. You're not like cutting through staples and whatnot. S110V is a good-to-go sort of steel. It will be a little trickier to sharpen in cases. It may be the case that, for instance, the stones in your normal system are going to just take forever and ever and ever, and especially if you're going to reprofile it. Actually, that's a distinction that's maybe worth making here. On a lot of knives, like for instance this little, I want to say it's a Griptilian, but it ain't anymore. This Ritter designed knife right here. Anyways, what you can see here is you've got this edge bevel right there. And one of the things that is most time consuming if you're doing any kind of a sharpening is if you have to change the angle of the entire bevel. If you're having to go from, let's see here, let me pull out my piece of paper. Do I have a pen around? I do. Hey, nice thing about reviewing pens, right? But anyways, if you were having to go from an edge that is shaped like this to a thinner edge that is shaped like this, you're going to have to remove a lot more material. You'll have to remove all of this on both sides, and that'll take a lot longer, especially as you get to a harder steel. So one thing that you can do to avoid that is when you first, you know, let's say that you get an edge that is a little bit dulled. So for instance, your edge dulls over like this. One thing you can do is sort of make a micro bevel. So you can just kind of sharpen at an angle that's a little bit more acute. And that'll allow you to get a serviceable edge back, but it'll make things a little bit, with a little bit less material removed, so to speak. That said, after a certain point, you will just need to sharpen outright. And at that point, you might need a little bit more diesel, so to speak, than your basic sharpening system is providing. And for S110V, something like diamond should do the trick. But, you know, at that point, you might consider doing either a KME-style system or even moving to a set of, well, this is the extra fine, but Lansky diamond plates. Those are what I've been using lately for sharpening, and I've been loving it, although it definitely takes a while to get used to. So anyways, that's a great question, and I hope I answered it for you there. Let's see here. Josh Woolard asks, hey Josh, will flipping the phosphor bronze washes over from the already worn side after cleaning and oiling affect the action for a while or until it breaks in again? So Josh, Josh is asking a question here, a very good question. Basically the idea here is, do I have a knife I can take apart very quickly that has this construction? Actually, no, not close at hand. Anyways, what's going on here is that when you have a knife with washes, like for instance, this is a knife on phosphor bronze washes, where there's scales here and then there's a set of washes in the middle there. What you end up with are washes that can either rotate freely as the blade, either the washes will rotate against the blade, such that they're held steady against the scale, or they will rotate freely against the scale and be held steady against the blade. That's the way that these work. They rotate either in sync with the blade or with the handle. But either way, there's a wear surface on there. And one of the nice things about phosphor bronze washes is they break in. After a while, you will get a much nicer action, and this is a brand new factory knife here. But after a while of use, you will get a much nicer action because the metal has worn away any high spots on the phosphor bronze washes, for instance, or because, there's polishing that goes on naturally. And so if you take a knife apart and you see that one side is beautifully polished with little concentric rings, generally what I'd recommend is to take note of what side that was on and reassemble the knife in that way. If you flip the washer over, I mean, worst case, it'll start rotating the other way maybe, or you'll have to repolish, so to speak, given use. But no, I mean, you're not going to hurt anything, but you may get better action by keeping the well-polished surfaces where they were previously oriented and kind of keeping that in mind. So that's a really good question, Josh. I hope that was helpful to you. Let's see here. Cowboy Swami asks, Rolex Submariner versus Grand Seiko Spring Drive Diver. Why? Thank you. So, okay, in terms of dive watches, one thing I'd recommend very highly, and I'm biased here, but is this guy. This is the Omega Seamaster Seamaster Professional 300. In a lot of ways, I feel like not only is this a great watch, but it represents a value that's a little higher than I think the Rolex or potentially the Grand Seiko Spring Drive Diver does. And so if you're thinking about price and this has an appeal to you, you might consider going this route. That's certainly I have, and I have no desire for either of those two watches as a result. Rolex is great. If you can buy one, that would be a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, right now, Rolex, for whatever reason, we're not going to go on ahead and make any conspiracy theories about why, for instance, having reduced demand might be helpful, reduced supply might be helpful. But nevertheless, Rolex is having trouble keeping Submariners on the shelf, to be charitable. And so as a result, they're hard to get. So that might be something you have trouble trying on. It's a great watch, 100%. The Rolex, the sub it's hard to say it's anything other one. You do get the Cyclops over the date, which drives some people, myself included, crazy. But again, it's great. The Grand Seiko Spring Drive Diver is amazing. It's also very large, unfortunately. That's my biggest issue with it. If that thing were reasonably sized, I would be totally all about that. Unfortunately, it's a little gigantic. And so for me, at least, the Omega wins. But between those two, Rolex Sub is maybe a slightly better size, but the Grand Seiko Titanium, especially the Titanium one, it's so light, it's nice. It's hard not to recommend. So you can't really go wrong there. It's really a question of what you're after there. Let's see here. Paul Munko asks about the Machine Era markup. This is a version of the Machine Era Classic, which I have in my pocket right freaking now, which has a pocket clip on there. It is literally just a Machine Era Classic with a pocket clip on there. It has a little bit of milling here, and it also loses these little guys right in the middle here. It loses these gaps. For me personally, I think I prefer the Classic, just because I like this little bit of extra machining. And this is really a pen that, in my mind, is best suited to the pocket. But rather than with a clip. But if you like the Machine Era Classic design and think you want a clip, then the markup's great. No arguments there. I got a full review coming to that guy, as always. So there we go. Thank you very much for all the kind words, everybody, you were asking here. Let's see here. Was that an O-ring you had on your TRM thumb stud? It is indeed. Here, I'll throw this guy on the screen. This is actually something that TRM recommended to me. They said, oh, hey, if you want to make your thumb stud a little less aggressive, try putting an O-ring on there. And indeed, they provided. So I was at G10 the Gathering, that is. And when I bought this guy, they threw in some O-rings, and you know what? It does kind of help. It's nice. It gives a little bit extra traction there. It's a cool approach. So there you go. How do I like the Schmidt fine liner ink refills? They're good. That's another difference between the Machine Era markup and the Classic, is that you, instead of getting a Pilot refill, you get a Schmidt fine liner. It's absolutely good to go. And if you don't need to write with a lot of pressure, then you know what? No arguments there. People are asking me what the knives are here. This is the Shirogorov Neon Zero, the Cheburkov Strij Large. This is the Doug Ritter MSK Mark II. This is the CJRB, whose name I'm forgetting right now. Either way, it's a good one. It's by Dylan Mallory, one of his designs. This is Z Hunter. And this right here is a TRM Atom. Let's see here. Nick Macchioli asks, what is my favorite knife that I've reviewed? Nick, that's a really hard question, and it's hard for a couple of reasons to answer that one. One of the reasons it's difficult is that, I've reviewed a bunch of stuff. And, for me, favorite that I've reviewed there have been a lot of knives that I've loved reviewing that I haven't loved as knives. You know, for instance, the Cold Steel Espada XL. I really liked doing that review just because it was really interesting to me. It was really amusing to me. And so, you know, I liked it a lot, or even the Formax. Again, these are not knives that I have, but I like doing those reviews because they surprised me. They made me happy. This, let's see here, the TRM Atom is another really great knife, and it's one that I carry a lot. It's one, also the Spyderco Shaman is worth shouting out to. Custom Scales by Shep and CC, so people don't ask me for 1,000 pages in the comments. Anyways, this is another knife that reviewing it was actually hard because at first I didn't quite know what to do about it, know what to do with it, so to speak. But once I figured it out, it got really, really cool. So, you know, there were a bunch of really nice pocket knives out there I've reviewed. Picking one favorite among them, I mean, it's difficult, but at the end of the day, it has to be the Z Hunter. Just saying. Let's see here. Justin Ansira, thank you very much, Justin, asks, I recently came upon a 2015 Shamwari, Gareth Bull Knives Shamwari, that's what he means there, on washes. It's not something I'm particularly in love with, and I could flip it easily. What would I replace it with for a build quality and action in that 3 to 3.5 inch size? There were a bunch of options in there, 3 to 3.5 inch size. The biggest question is, how deep are you into it, right? I mean, because if you're $400 into it, then that's one thing, but if you're $800, that's a different thing. There were some other nice choices, though, in that range. I mean, one of them would be, for instance, the Brad Southern Mini Tolk. This is a knife that I've been finding myself more and more in love with as I've carried it more and more. It's a flipper knife rather than a front flipper knife, but it's a really, really nice choice. Another one would be the Berger knife, Trevor Berger EXK. I handled one of these guys again at the gathering, and you know what? They're good. They're real good. They're really excellent, as a matter of fact. And so, as a result, then they make something that's relatively similar to Gareth Bull in that domain. If you want another front flipper, you could also consider the Alambic Knives Busker. Although you're going to get something that's a little bit less slicey, you also get something that's quite excellent. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth highlighting there. I mean, really, in that kind of price range, the sky's the limit. You got a whole bunch of really nice options out there. And so, yeah, I think you got a bunch of choices there. It's always difficult not knowing the exact price you're after there. Let's see here. Do you consider Iceberg actually asks a great question. Do you consider the Hogue Ritter RSK a clone, homage, or ripoff of the Griptilian? I've seen very heated debates on blade forums. Do you think it's ethical to make a handle so similar? So, I don't. That said, it is exactly an homage or a clone or a ripoff. The reason that this, though, happened is that this Doug Ritter was one of the designers of, well, the original Ritter Griptilian. And he actually cleared this knife with the other designer, with at least he tells me that he cleared it with, is it Pardue, I think is the other designer on this guy. And so, as a result, this, yes, absolutely, is basically exactly the same knife as the original Ritter Griptilian. However, it's been cleared by the maker, and it's being now made by the person who has the rights to the design, namely Doug Ritter, using Hogue instead of Benchmade. I can't, speak to the exact legal definitions of things. However, when both of the artists are okay with this being made, and the person whose work it is most immediately is the person whose name is on the blade, I don't consider that to be a clone so much as he took a design that was being made by one company and had it made by another company. Certainly there may be people, sorry, I'm getting a handkerchief here, because, sweating in the Batman mask. But I swear to God, if somebody just said try using all caps, and no, just no. No. Anyways, so I don't think it's a problematic move in any way, shape, or form there. Let's see here. Deacon of Doubt desperately wants me to tell him if I could get one high-end knife, what would I recommend? Deacon, that's a really hard question. That's kind of like saying, if I could get one car, what would you recommend? Because it really varies so much on the basis of what you're after, right? I mean, for me, there were lots of really nice high-end knives. I mean, for instance, Enrique Pena does amazing custom knife work. I'm a big fan of his work as a custom maker as well as just as a human in general. This is a really nice high-end knife. However, it's not going to be the right choice for everybody. Similarly, there were things like the Holt Spectre, the Grimsmo Norseman. There were lots of really nice high-end high-end pieces out there. But the problem is saying, what good high-end knife should I buy? And then there's, if you want to spend $5,000, you can get a Stan, well, probably closer to 8 these days. You can get a Stan Wilson non-flipper flip. It's a great knife. I can recommend it. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter what high-end knife is not there's not a pinnacle. There's not like the very top of the rock. I mean, there are makers who are just really, really, really good. Like for instance, oh, come on, Michael Raymond. That would be a high-end knife I would absolutely love to get one of, just because, well, he's really, really freaking good. But, there are lots and lots of great high-end things. So the big question here is not so much what's the best high-end knife, it's what's the best one for you. And in that case, what I would do is just go to a show, or maybe even just start looking around online, see what jumps out at you, see what designs really, are great for you, and try a bunch of lower-end knives that give you a sense of what size range you're after, what feature set. If you realize, if you were to go out and you were to buy a mini Tolk, for instance, and then you realize, I don't like flippers, then you got yourself a little bit of a problem. Whereas if you just, went out and bought a good old-fashioned budget sort of knife, that another CJRB here just happens to be on the table. If you were to go out and get another one of those, realize you don't like flippers, you're out $35. And so I think there's a long period there before you go any further. So, Lambic Busker is really good, and the Whippersnapper, you got a lot of really nice choices there. Steve Rasmussen says, you have more than one car? Nope, absolutely not. I have the car, and I have a bus, and I have the Lyft app. That'll do enough for me at the moment. I may have to get another one because, good God, Southern California is not public transit friendly. But nevertheless, we'll see. For now, I'm making do. Thoughts about YouTube personalities in general. He says, for example, I love Birdshot IV. Hey, so do I. Actually, right here, I'll shout them out with a sticker on screen. I love Birdshot IV because they're very funny, but don't always enjoy their content, whereas with you, it's a combination of knives and knowledge, and lack of knowledge, I'd like to highlight. That was me, not him. But nevertheless, YouTube personalities are interesting. There are a bunch of YouTubers that I watch. I'm not just a content creator. I'm a content consumer as well. There are a bunch of folks that I really, really like their work. I mean, for instance, and this can be of a variety of domains. Who the heck is the? There were a bunch of YouTubers who, like, for instance, I do a lot of gaming channels and speed running and things like that. So, like, Grand Pooh Bear is a guy, he runs Mario varieties. I like him because I think he's got a great personality. And so, I'll watch his content, even if I'm not super interested. Even if I've never even played the game he's playing, it's always kind of interesting to watch, right? A-Bomb79, I think is his name. He's a pretty excellent guy, a machinist type of person, but he does a lot of really good explanations. I like the way he rolls, just generally speaking, and so as a result, I'll spend more time with his videos than I would otherwise. By the way, thank you for the generous donation, Tommy. That's very kind of you. But there were a bunch of great YouTubers out there who do really, really, really nice work, and even in the EDC world, everybody brings a different perspective to the table, right? I mean, you can think about every channel, and you'll find that they have their own personality. They have their own set of interests, their own set of biases, their own set of. I love Frankie and Bird's channel. That's Birdshot IV, by the way. I love their channel in large part because of the personality that they're bringing to the table, right? I know that if I watch a video of theirs, I'm going to be entertained by it because they're just genuine people. And if you meet them together, and we've gotten a chance to hang out a little bit more, if you meet them, they're exactly the same off camera as they are on camera. They're just a set of, and I think they understand and are okay with this. They're a set of goofy bastards, and that to me is a beautiful thing. AVE is another great, he's another machinist type who's just absolutely excellent. There are people whose stuff I watch and I don't even care. Like there's a guy, Davey, and I forget the numbers. DAVIE, like 504 or something like that. And he does. He does bass videos, like bass guitar. I don't play bass. I don't give a crap about the bass, but he's entertaining enough that I'll watch him. And so, I think there's a lot to be said for having a personality, well, just generally speaking. But, There are a lot of great. Oh, another one is the hydraulic press channel and beyond the press channel. Stellar Humans. Again, never met them. I have no. They're way more popular than I could ever hope to be, but nevertheless, they're amazing. And so watching these random Finnish people blowing things up and just having a great old time about it is just great. And so I think there's a whole bunch of really good stuff out there, and it's something to consider. Somebody says base. Yep, pretty much. That's that. Welcome to their world. Kev 420 asks, if I sharpen my knife every day, is there a point to getting a steel that's better than S30V like M4? So Kev, that's a really great question. So here we have M4, and I've got some S30V around here someplace. Do I? Yeah. Okay, pair of 3. Pair of 2, that is. M4 and S30V, both great steels. In some ways, and for many people, S30V might be a better choice. If, for instance, you're in a rust-prone area, M4 might be a step back down. S30V is a great steel. A lot of people are starting to get a little bit complaining about it. Like, in the same way that I'm a little bit like, VG10, a lot of people are like, S30V. But the thing is, I think for most people, it's going to be absolutely good to go. And you could probably make the same argument for VG10. But nevertheless, S30V is a great steel. The thing that might be different for you is, you might have to sharpen every day because you're using your knife that much every day. But the thing is, you might have to sharpen a little bit less aggressively. You might have to sharpen, and you might lose a little bit less material when you do. Really, a bigger question, I think, is going to be not so much like, it's not that steels are just like linearly better, it's just that they're very different. If you want something that is completely rust resistant, LC200N is going to be a better choice than either of these guys, even though it may hold an edge. It's about similar to S30V. It's really going to depend on your specific needs. So I wouldn't put it in terms of like, I need a better steel. I would just put it in terms of, are you happy with the performance you're getting right now? And if not, what would you rather have? Would you rather sharpen a little bit less often? Then you might go with something like S90 or an M4. Or if you want more rust resistance, steel is not a betterness. And this is something that I'm doing a little bit better, I think, on the channel these days. But understanding, for instance, that M390, et cetera, different, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're better. It doesn't necessarily mean they're amazing. It just means that they're going to be different, and that performance characteristic is going to be a little bit different for each of you. And so, there we go. Let's see here. Hey, Nick, are you getting a titanium Mordax? So Ferrum Forge and ProTech have just announced a run of the Mordax that they've done with Mass Drop, except they're not doing it with Mass Drop this time. They're just doing a titanium variant of it. That should be really cool. I have already told the Ferrum Forge / ProTech people just to take my damn money. So, yes, I will absolutely be getting one of those. Let's see here. If Spyderco asked for my input on a Delica 5, what reasonable changes would I make to it to add value at $80? Honestly, Trevor, the only thing I could think of to make a Delica 5 would be to take the Para 3 lightweight and just make a skinny variant. I think if you were to do that, that would be the perfect Delica 5. I like the Para 3 lightweight a lot, and honestly, I feel like for a lot of folks it will be the Delica 5, but if they were to make a thinner blade variant, it would completely supplant that. But honestly, between the Para 3 lightweight, which is currently on loan to my buddy over at Metal Effort, and the Spyderco Chaparral in FRN, I really don't feel like a Delica 5 needs to be a thing anymore. I love the Delica a lot, and I'd hate to see the line die off at some level, but I think it has been functionally replaced by those other two choices, and that may not be the end of the world, so to speak. Hey, Frank, good to see you. Any advice for an upcoming knife YouTuber? Knife therapy, that's a really great question. First off, knife therapy, go check out his channel. Go check out all the YouTubers' channels. There's Treddy as well, another great YouTuber, although he's far from upcoming. He's come up already, I suppose. But anyways, the biggest advice I would give you is go out and handle a bunch of things. And learn as much as you can. Watch maker videos. Go out, watch the Grimsmo series. Look, the Grimsmo, they're not perfect, but they've made really great knives, and they've made really great videos about making knives. The more you can learn about how knives function, the more you can learn about how knives work, the better and better and better everything's going to be. And so, honestly, I feel like the more time you spend learning about the field, about the industry, etc., the better your life is going going to be. Life will just be substantially easier when you understand things. You know, I said some stupid things in early videos. These are videos that by and large I've taken down now. But there were times where it was like I didn't understand the damn thing. You know, like, oh, I think I said in one video that I think I've since taken down, oh, well, they skeletonized the liner. They took out little cuts. Do any of these have skeletonization? No, they don't. Interesting. They took out little cuts from the liner just in order to save money. Because I thought that using less metal in the final product, you could recycle that. It was the dumbest damn thing I've said in a long time. But, well, okay, maybe that's not true. I've said a lot of stupid things. But nevertheless, like, hey, I think I can buy real estate in California. Yeah, that was dumb. Anyways, I digress. The more you can learn about the world, the better. The other thing I'd advise is just go to shops, go to shows. If you can find a local knife show, go to it. Oh, my God. And just handle as much as you can, because it gives you a room for comparison, right? Because it's very difficult to talk about flipping action if you've only handled flippers on the lower end, rather than something with a little bit higher end act. It just gives you a better sense of, what should a good detent feel like? Do you like a hard detent? Do you like a soft detent? Just the more knives you handle, the better you will become. If I've learned anything at all, it's just because I've handled a bunch of knives, and I've watched a bunch of videos, and I've asked a bunch of people questions. And so the more open you can be, the more videos you can watch, etc., that would be a beautiful thing. Clayton Edwards asks, would you ever sell signed Z Hunters to your fans? As a matter of fact, although this particular Z Hunter is no longer in production, so I can't actually, sell any of them, one of the perks that I offer to my Patreon patrons. Patreon is a service, and sorry for the hard sell here, but he asked, right? And I didn't pay him to ask, by the way. Just say, in fact, he paid me to ask. Anyways, it's a service where basically you can sign up for a certain amount per month, and that will just go straight to the channel. It makes it easier for me to say, hey, $715 Shirogorov Neon. By the way, hard to 10, yikes. Sure, I'll pick one up for the channel. And then, but anyways, Patreon patrons are given after their donations reach a total of $50. I will send them a signed Terrible Knife. Usually it's one of the ones from my Terrible Knives live video, but sometimes I'll pick up spares just to, give them some exceptional crap. So that's the way to get a signed Z Hunter from me, is to sign up for Patreon. And once your donation hits a certain threshold, I'm more than happy to send you something along. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see here. What is my favorite knife brand? Which one and why? That's a really hard question to answer because each one has their strengths and weaknesses. If I had to and I've been asked this before, and I think the answer again is going to end up being Spyderco. The reason I say that is that by and large, they've made enough knives that if I had to just pick from among their lineup for every knife for the rest of my life, I could probably do that without a whole lot of loss, right? I like a lot of what they're doing. Their overall approach to product design really jives with me. They make knives that cut. They're kind humans. All of their interactions. I was highlighting earlier that some makers are not very kind to their fans, particularly in social media, very thin-skinned or something like that. However, there were definitely, Spyderco is, by and large. Anytime they reach out to the community, they're very kind to the community. They give back a great deal. And so I like their knives. I like their overall principles behind their designs. And frankly, they've been pretty damn kind, both to me and I think other folks in the world. So they're probably up there. Another good one to think about is actually TRM. They haven't made a whole bunch of stuff, but the stuff they've made has been really, really good. And so lately, they've really catapulted up toward the top there. So there you go. What else do we have here? Favorite handle scale material? Ronnie B, by looking at my collection here, it looks like titanium wins, although carbon fiber ain't that far behind. Carbon fiber is great. G10 is, honestly, handle scale materials, for me, it's not like there's one that has such an advantage that none of the other ones can compete. My Carter can be great. I like all kinds of different scales, but, any one of them can be excellent. So, there we go. Best way to get into a Damasteel bladed gentleman folders under $1,000. Thanks, Treddy. Damasteel under $1,000, you got a lot of options now, and especially now that you're getting things like through Reate, they're doing a bunch of Damasteels. So you could do like the Reate Steelcraft Todd Begg Bodega in Damasteel for like $700. Under $1,000, there were a bunch of different ways to get Damasteel. You can get Lamic is now doing some Damasteel work over there. Who else? I mean, honestly, it's not that hard to find good Damascus anymore. One other approach here is, if it's not Damasteel, because remember, hold on just a second here. Damasteel is a brand. Do I have Damasteel? I have Damasteel. This is Damasteel branded Damascus. It is a very specific powder metallurgy version of Damascus that's using, I believe, RWL 34 and PSF 27 steels that are mixed together as powders to create these beautiful patterns here. But they are not the only company that makes a Damascus or pattern welded style steel. This is another kind of Damascus. This is actually a Civivi knife. This is the Civivi McKenna. But we can see here, this has the same Damascus sort of pattern approach, where they have molded two steels together and etched one of them, as that does. And this is a knife that is like 80 or 90 bucks. And so if you just want to get yourself a Damascus style steel, you can get a really, really, really nice Damascus style steel surprisingly cheaply these days. So I would say, you know, there are lots of good options there, and Damasteel tends to be a little more expensive just because it's a brand name sort of product. But there are a lot of really great Damascus style steels out there these days. Let's see here. Am I liking the Strish, the Cheburkov Strish? I am, actually. It's a surprisingly nice knife. I haven't done my review yet. In fact, this hasn't got enough pocket time for me to do that. But it's got a whole bunch of joy. The biggest thing for me is that it's relatively thin and it's relatively simple with an amazingly thin edge. There's a lot of, and it's on washes too. There's a lot to love here. So keep an eye for the full review. But so far, I'm pretty impressed. I'm even thinking about picking up a small one to see if I like that a little bit better. Brian Knudsen, or Knudsen, I imagine, says, how do you go about sharpening weird blade shapes? You have a Lamic Busker with a Gusto blade, and I'm baffled how to sharpen it on the KME. Unfortunately, that can be one of the problems when you go to a recurved blade. Do I have any recurved blades around? Do I have any recurves? It's slightly recurved, but only due to bad sharpening. I don't tend to keep recurved blades for exactly the reason you're describing, actually. They're a pain in the neck to sharpen. However, there are some approaches that you can... Oh, I do have a recurved blade. Of course I freaking do. I have the Grimsmo Norseman, which has a recurve throughout this little area right here. But for the KME system particularly, you do have, as I step on something and try and fall... Hold on, let me not die. Okay, not dying. This is the KME recurve stone. This is actually not a stone at all, but it's a series of diamond plates that have been coated with diamonds in a coarse, medium, and fine grit, which allows you to put this into the KME, and then this can get very easily into those grooves. Even the small, I mean, you have to be a very, very small recurve for this guy not to be able to help you out. This, of course, is designed for the KME, but the other approach that you can take are rod-based sharpening systems, like the Spyderco Sharpmaker, as well as the Spyderco Golden Stone is another good approach for this. And those can get nice and easily into that groove because all you really have is a single cylinder that's going to be coming through in this area here, and that'll sharpen those up nicely. So that's a, there you go. That's kind of my approach, though, for sharpening there, is either get a recurve stone that's dedicated, get a very thin regular stone, for the KME style thing, or even just use a rod-based system, because then you won't have any kind of an issue. Let's see here. What are we doing here? We have somebody asking, okay, somebody is asking, does anyone know the legal limit in New Jersey for knife carry? You do not want to ask that here. I guarantee this of you. It is a bad idea to ask random people in a YouTube channel for legal advice. And that really is exactly what you're asking for. Because right now what you're saying is, hey, I want to not get arrested and go to jail. Do you really want to put that in the hands of a YouTuber? Or do you want to put that in the hands of, oh, I don't know, a lawyer? So what I would do is actually contact the lawyer in your local area. And remember, local area is important, because it could be that in New Jersey, I don't know the laws here, but it could be that there were laws that are overarching for the entire state, but maybe in your city or your township, there are very specific laws that are there, such that, you know, oh, it's perfectly legal to own this thing in New Jersey, but maybe it's not where you live. So I would contact the local lawyer and ask him to take a look at the statutes. Yeah, they might charge you some money. Or another approach would be to contact like Knife Rights and look on their webpage or look at other apps and things. But remember, if it's important enough that you're putting your freedom on the line, don't trust free strangers on the internet, because we don't know what the heck we're talking about. Even lawyers don't give advice on YouTube, says a lawyer. So yeah. Do you still get as excited for new knives as when I started collecting? Asked Paul Munko TV. And by the way, Paul, thanks for your generosity here today. That's a really good question. I can. I don't always, though. I'm in this very weird situation where I have a lot of gear flowing at me now, both from makers, but as well as from friends, as loaners, etc. I have a lot of gear that's coming my way, and so for me, a new knife day is kind of a day, right? And I've lost, and this has given me a loss of perspective. I agree with this completely, and this is one of the reasons that I think as I've continued to do the channel more and more, it's been a little bit harder for me to kind of keep that perspective of like, this is the one thing I've been saving up for months. Like, okay, and again, this is not a complaint story. This is an I am a very lucky man story. But, think of this guy. This is the Shiro Neon Zero. This is a $715 knife. Plus shipping. Really? You're charging me shipping on a $750? Anyways, I digress. This is a really amazing piece, but this is a knife that I think for a lot of people you would have to save up good and long for if you're ever able to pull it off at all. But because I have generous patrons who want to see my content and want to make that possible, it's relatively easy for me to say, I can't do, more than a couple of these, and I'm going to have to sell this guy after I'm done with the review. And anything that I do sell, by the way, goes to my patrons first, usually at really good prices. I take a lot of baths on Patreon, but they make that possible, so it's okay. But for me, it's, I can just pick one of these guys up at the post office and go like, oh, that's cool. But I still, so I don't have the opportunity to get quite as passionate about it. There are products, though, in some ways, though, that's helpful. Because there are products that I am passionate about. And when something comes up that I am truly passionate about, it means something to me. If there is something that where I get it and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. Like this guy with the fluted carbon fiber, or once they do the titanium scales. This really blew me away. And so when something even as jaded and, completely full of knives as I am, so to speak, really jumps out at me, that means maybe a little bit more than it might to some other folks. And so there were definitely knives that I'm excited about. And they're like, oh, wow, like the Shiro. Like, okay, I'm really curious. How are these guys? How have they made the improvements? What is this knife amazing, etc. I'm definitely excited. But it's not the same sense of like waiting at the post office, waiting for the that I used to get. And that's, both a wonderful thing because it represents where I'm at, but it's also a little sad. So that's a great question, though. Very, very great question there. Let's see here. Daddy OEDC asks, are you as excited as I am that Giant Mouse Knives is now working with Reate? Reate, however the heck you want to do it. Yes, I am super excited about that. Giant Mouse has just announced their very first knife that was made in collaboration with Reate, and that's great. Giant Mouse Knives have amazing designs, but for a long time, let's just put it this way. In a number of situations, they've had some quality control issues with their prior factory. Of course, lots of really great Giant Mouse knives have gone out there, but they've had a little bit more, and it was to the point where I just I'd stopped really paying attention because, yeah, those are problematic. And so I'm loving the fact that they're working with a factory now that is well known to be pretty damn good on quality control, and that's super exciting to me. I will absolutely be picking up one of their next, the Reate knives. That'll be excellent. So yes, Daddy-O, I'm super, by the way, speaking of reviewers, Daddy-O EDC, check him out as well. So yeah, there we go. Let's see here. Kane Cassidy's asking, Nick, is the Sebenza action better than the ZT-0452? Those are entirely different kind of knives. The Sebenza is this is a small Sebenza here. I don't have a 452 anymore. But this guy here has a very, very different action than that. This is a thumb stud knife, and it's not even a flicky thumb stud knife. It's a knife that you guide open slowly with a thumb stud, whereas the 452 is much closer to... yeah, it's a pretty 452-ish action. It is very close to, it's a flipper. You just like, boom, fire it out there. And so they're kind of diametric opposites, if you will, in the action world. They're both very good actions, certainly 100%, but they're very different actions. And so you have to know, again, this comes to that question, what's the best high-end knife? You have to know what you're looking for. If you want a Sebenza-style action, there are lots of great choices out there. The Strish here ain't a bad choice in that domain. If you want something that is much more... flipper, hard detent, that kind of thing, dropping things off. Absolutely, the Sebenza is not your approach. William Eater asks, how would you deal with scared people around knives? Let's see here. I actually have a whole video on that, on basically how to deal with folks who have a knife-related fear, because it's a logical thing that people might have. It's an adaptation to a society in which they're often portrayed as scary, and so I go ahead and recommend you check that video out instead. Let's see here. What do I think of friction pens? I have no idea what that is. Sorry there, Hunter. Let's see here. Hey, Hawkwit, another new reviewer. You should check him out. And Metal Complex snuck in here too. What do we got here? Big fan of my channel. Appreciate my thoughts on the Benchmade Valet. It's your dream knife. You're considering getting one soon. Edgy meme, edgy meme 456 thick boy. Nice. Asks about the Valet. Look, the Valet is a great knife. In fact, it may be my favorite knife that Benchmade makes. Maybe accepting the carbon fiber proxy is good. Look, check it out. I have a video up of it. They're great. If you can go to a store and get one that's in really excellent condition, that's free dropping, scented, and no blade play, then buy it. You're going to love it. You're going to carry it for years. Absolutely solid. I wish that was, yeah, that's it. Let's see here. Let's see here. Paul Munko says, thanks for sparking my interest in knives. Because of you, I've had incredible opportunities I never would have dreamed of, and I appreciate the heck out of it for you. Thank you. I'm a gem. Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate that. That's very, very, very kind of you. You know, it's so often that, I mean, of course, thank you for that. It's nice to hear those kinds of things. And this is not a woe is me tale. It's YouTube. That's life. But very often, the comments that you get are the ugly ones, right? Or the comments that stand out are, you know, people like, oh, you know, the tiny bastard with your little, you know, oh, you go back to Brooklyn, you know what? You get so much of that nastiness. I get so much hate speech on YouTube. It's not even funny. Oh my God, guys. Since 2016, it's been rough. But anyways, it's really kind for people to actually share those comments. Not just, yeah, and I'm not requesting them. I don't need you to, you know, puff up my ego or anything like that. But, you know, it's always nice to hear those kinds of things because most of the time you get a lot of ugly out there on the YouTube comment world. That's one other piece of advice I'd give to new YouTube reviewers is remember the comment is, there were wonderful commenters out there, but there were a lot of jerks out there as well, and it's probably best just to mute them on the channel and move on with your life, because any time you spend fighting that is time you're losing. Let's see here. King Cassidy, Nick, which custom production knife, or which custom knife would you like to see in production most? The Stan Wilson non-flipper flipper is the easiest answer I've ever given, just because no one's done it yet, and I think it's a great mechanism, and it's something I'd like to see just more often around. So, yeah. Let's see here. Do you get the feeling to avoid use on knives greater than $500, turning them into safe queens? Scott Berg, that's a really great question. I have a whole video on the cost carry comfort curve that talks all about that idea that basically for some people, myself included, you might hit a point where you don't feel comfortable carrying and using a pocket knife, and at that point it becomes a safe queen, and that can either be something you're fine with or not, but it's a valid question to ask. Just a second, need to get some water here. Alrighty, back at the ranch. Let's see. Heavy use police officer here. Been jumping between Gershaw's, a Spyderco, Yojimbo, some CRKTs. That's a great statement. Recommendation. There we go. Recommendations on something sturdier but not bank breaking. Good question. A couple of things to consider. Spyderco Shaman's a nice sturdy piece. For sturdy, you might also consider some of Cold Steel's lineup. You've got things like, for instance, the 8010 or 8015, very sturdy knives. In many ways, that's one of their arguments, is like, well, our knives is sturdier than anything else. I think I mentioned the Spyderco Shaman already, or maybe, no, the PM2 might be a little bit more fragile for you, just in terms of the tip. The Shaman is a little bit nicer in that domain. The other thing to consider is a fixed blade. Carry a fixed blade and the folder, because fixed blades are by definition going to be sturdier than anything else. So that's something to consider there. Let's see here. What do we got here? Comey Tail Moonpaw asks, I hope you'll do another live stream. I will. Don't worry about that. Benchmade just made a limited edition Infidel. It's CPM S30V instead of D2. Any thoughts on that? Is one better than the other for tactical use? To start with, I'm the very last person you should ask about tactical use. Asking me about tactical use is a lot like going up to your grandma and asking her what it was like to be a, Roman gladiator. Unless you have a very interesting grandma who's a little older than I expected, they're not going to have any sense of it. And similarly, I don't have any sense of tactical use. What I can tell you, though, is that S30V and D2 steel are, they're both good to go for everyday carry. S30V is going to hold an edge, maybe a little bit better than D2, but more importantly, it's going to be much more rust resistant. And so if you're in an area where rust is a concern, maybe that's going to be a much better approach. But mostly overall, not speaking to tacticalization, they're both going to be good to go, but especially for a knife like that, which very often those can be more fidgety than anything. Both D2 and S30V are probably going to be okay. Knife Therapy asks, Nick, I'm getting married soon. Was wondering what my wedding carry was. So that's a good question. This guy, my ring, although that was only for the latter half of the day. This guy is a pen, Urban Survival Gear tie scribe bolt. This guy is a knife. In fact, I did right here. This is what I used to cut the wedding cake. They were cupcakes. Made it easier, right? So we got this little guy here, and they were cupcakes, not because I had that knife, but just generally. And then this watch, the Omega Aquaterra Seamaster in quartz. Absolutely a great watch. So that was my wedding day carry. If I did it all again with my current collection, this guy would probably be in my pocket as a pocket knife, but nevertheless, it's still a joy. So good question, and congratulations on your wedding. I hope it's a beautiful day for you. Let's see here. My grandma wasn't a gladiator, but she drove a Sherman tank. That's an awesome grandma to have there. I fully support that entirely. What do we have here? Band time, Rush or Tool? Probably Rush for me. It's kind of a weird opposition. Tool makes some great stuff, but I think I own more Rush songs than Tool songs. We'll put it that way, but I won't say I'm a super fan for either of them there. Let's see here. Treddy asks, thoughts on Zebra knives and Wee knives, Gnar? Gnar? I don't know. It's California, like, Gnar, dude! Either way, whatever it is, the Gnar, I think it's Gnar. Okay, the Gnar, I handled at Blade Show, or I'm sorry, at The Gathering. Nice piece. I'll probably try and check one out. It didn't like, oh my God, jump out at me like, oh, I'm so aroused right now. And then no, that wasn't me. However, it's a fine little piece. Zebra knives, I've done a couple of reviews on. They're fine. He makes some fine stuff. The warranty needs a little love, though, certainly. And thoughts on the new iPhones? I ordered one. I do all of my filming on an iPhone. This is an iPhone XS right now. Yeah, it's a little excessive. And so I went ahead and I ordered the new one. I'm in their upgrade program anyway. But the thing is, if this is my main camera for life and for the channel, this is one of the few cases in which I think the camera upgrade is probably going to be a helpful thing for me. I also wanted to move to the biggest size because I'm on my phone so damn much that why not, right? Let's see here. What else do we have here? Nick needs to do the Cali voice more. Oh God, California voice. That's a thing. Yeah. Is there an intruder in my house? No. Hey, honey, is there an intruder in our house? She says no. So I don't think so. Good question, though. Weird question. Unless you're in my house right now, in which case that's odd. Let's see here. Slipknot or Metallica, though? This is one of those where I'm just going to break a lot of hearts because I'm honestly not a big fan of either one. If I had to choose one, probably Metallica, though. Let's see here. What do we got? Any upcoming flashlight reviews? Yes, indeed. Where the heck are you, flashlight? Here we go. Jetbeam RRT01 version 2. This is an amazing light. I actually just got back from a vacation and was carrying this guy the whole damn time. This is great. It is a rotary light. It allows you to adjust the light completely in a rotary fashion there. Absolutely a beautiful thing. So this guy, the review will be coming, once I film it, but it's definitely a thing. If there was an intruder, wouldn't they be, there wouldn't be after he walked into a room filled with knives and a guy in a Batman mask, yeah. Like, stand up one of these guys in hand like, hey, what you doing in here? Oh, just leaving, thank you. So yeah, that's a great question. Do vegetarians find vegans just as annoying? This is going to require a little bit of diplomacy, shall we say. I respect very much that they're willing to take a strong ethical stand for what they believe in. You can pry cheese from my cold, dead hands. We'll go on ahead and go that way. I will say that for a lot of people, any kind of those things can turn very quickly into something approximating an eating disorder, where it's like it allows you to be the center of attention over and over and over again, and that becomes a problem. I think even as a vegetarian, I feel very strongly that if I walk into a restaurant, like, okay, for instance, there have been a few times where I've taken my wife, who is not a vegetarian, to a steakhouse, for instance, in Montana. This is, by the way, not a place that I think they've ever seen a vegetarian before. But I know that if I walk into that building, I am the problem, not them. Like, flat out. Like, if they are not able to accommodate me, of course they're freaking not able to accommodate me because I'm a vegetarian and this is a Montana steakhouse. So as a result, when I walk into a Montana steakhouse, I know damn straight that the problem here is not the steakhouse, it is the Nick Shabazz. And so I tend to be very accommodating to that. I try to understand it and be kind to them as a result. But I think no matter what your dietary choices are, you need to be kind. It's important to respect things like allergies and things like that, but by and large, I think kindness is the key to this, as in so many things. I'm sorry, I took the Z Hunter off the screen. I'm sorry, Ferrum Forge. Here, I'll put you at the bottom there. That way you're still in the game. Let's see here. Have I tried the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger? I have indeed. It is damn near impossible. As a matter of fact, it's damn near creepy. It's like, wow, are we sure this isn't meat? It's kind of weird, I'll be honest with you. As a vegetarian, I'm not used to veggie burgers that are that close, and it's slightly disconcerting. Let's see here. If I thought about doing another budget shootout, I have. The problem is, you end up buying a lot of knives. It takes a lot of time. And honestly, that field changes so damn much that there are so many new budget knives every day, like this little guy here would be a great entrant, but if had I done it earlier in this summer, it wouldn't have existed, so it wouldn't have been able to be in the process. There were a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Let's see here. What are the perks to Damascus style steels or Damasteel? Oh, by the way, this is another kind of Damascus. I believe this is from Vegas Forge, which is another Damascus provider out there in the world. What are the perks to the... Honestly, it looks pretty. If you just want raw performance out of a steel, you should get something... Well, there are lots of really high-performance steels, like 20CV, M390, that whole family, M4, etc. If you just want absolute cutting performance, you don't want a Damascus-style steel. In fact, many of them will be inferior to those high-end steels as a result, but they look gorgeous, and they're good enough. Certainly, Damasteel is absolutely good to go for everyday carry. So that's a thing. Let's see here. I want a rare steak with 2 pounds of cheese bacon and a glass of scotch with cigar. All right there, Rusty. You're welcome to that. I don't... That's the other thing. Part of the reason I'm vegetarian is because I was really bad at being a meat eater, right? Like, I was the guy who would walk into a steakhouse and order it well done. I understand now that that is a sin. It is a cardinal sin. But the thing is, I never wanted my meat to be meaty. And so, my wife will order a steak, and it's like, do you have to kill it, is her level of rareness. Like, she wants it to be able to be saved by a skilled veterinarian. And as a result, I look at that and it's just like, oh my God, I don't understand you. But that's okay. I don't have to. I just married her. But yeah, so for me, I was never a good carnivore. And so as a result, it's no great loss to the species, so to speak. Let's see here. Did my Neon Zero come as dull as mine did? Just saying. That's a really good question. Let's find out. I literally just got this in the mail yesterday, and I haven't tried it yet. So let's see here. Going ahead and do some... It's not the sharpest damn thing ever, but it'll work. Yeah, I could use a little refinement in the edge. Is that a burr? Either way. Yeah, could use a little love, but not bad. I wouldn't call it dull. Let's see here. What is the difference between Damascus, Damasteel, and everything else named similar to that? Like I said earlier, the Damasteel is a corporate company. That is a trademark. Damasteel is one particular company's, the Damasteel company's specific variety of Damascus steel versus a Damascus-style steel, which is this guy, or a pattern-welded steel is another approach. Yeah, so that's the main difference there. let's see here. Do I have a nice set of custom kitchen knives? I do not. Right now, our kitchen knives, we have a set. I've owned some knives by North Arm Knives, which are amazing, by the way. They're the same folks who made this little guy right here, the Skaha. They're absolutely great kitchen knives. My wife didn't care for the machine texture on the outside of them. And so, considering she does most of the cooking, she gets to choose the knives. But her current favorites are I've got a set of Northwoods kitchen knives. They very briefly made a set of those in XHP that have served us well, as I've got a Henkel's. It's not amazing. I mean, it holds an edge for like 5 seconds, but it does the trick. But there were some great kitchen knives out there, and that's something I might spend some more time on later on. Let's see here. Is the Pena front flipper really worth $850? I guess you'll have to watch my review to find out. For me, at least, I think it is. However, he's got a production version of this that's going to be almost as good for a much lower price. And so you're going to want to consider that as well. Let's see here. Now we're getting some people very, very concerned about the fact that Damascus needs to come from Damascus, Syria. That's a different thing entirely. Please, yeah. What do we got here? Other great questions jumping around there. Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean and Demasteel. I wish the Planet Ocean, I love the Planet Ocean design, but it's just too damn thick for me. I'm liking thinner and thinner watches, and so as a result, I think I'll probably skip any Planet Ocean variety at this point. There's a reason I ended up selling mine. Okay, neighborhood kids screaming. That's nice. Speaking of watches, do not get into watches. Speaking of why you shouldn't get into watches, check this out. This is the inside of that Greg Stevens design watch right here. It's hard to show off with this MN strap on there, but holy crap, is that thing pretty. Look at that. It's a hand-winding movement, so there's no automatic, but you can see the watch beating in the background there. And that's the other side of this, which is a very militaristic style approach. I think as not exactly. If anything, my fashion sense is roughly ripped off of Indiana Jones, except without any of the adventures, because I'm done adventuring. Thank you very much. Let's see here. You'd pay good money to see Nick Shabazz review a pair of jeans or pants. So, I've talked about this before, but I am actually a very poor person to review pairs of pants because I have what is called a capsule wardrobe. Sorry, just cleaning off the crystal here. A capsule wardrobe is where you basically will only have a few pieces of clothing. Maybe you'll do multiples of them. So I actually own exactly one pair of pants. I own 5 copies of that one pair of pants, but I wear the same gray pants every day. And I have a set of gray shorts where I own 3 copies of that because those pants are perfect. They serve me very well. They're easily able to be purchased. They're by Mountain Khakis. And you know what? Nobody notices, or at least nobody gives a crap. And in the morning, I wake up and I just put on the pair of pants that isn't dirty. And then if it's dirty, then I move to the next pair. It's really boring. It's very strange. But oh my God, is it useful? Because it's just like I don't have to think about that anymore. And I know that at any given moment, I'm wearing a pair of pants that performs just exactly as I expect them to perform. And by the way, I have expectations on pants performance. This is the real underlying problem here. But this is a very neurotic sort of person. So yeah, that's a thing. So I do know all of the good, great, bad, and the ugly of those pants. One of the things I like a lot is that they've got a very large key pocket, which allows me to keep knives, even as big as, for instance, this little guy, in that key pocket very easily, away from my phone and wallet, etc. So, yeah, that's my thing. Speaking of fashion blogging, I actually just got this guy in for review. This is a K&H leather Akita. It's one of his other designs there, and I'm actually in the Navy, and it's a pretty freaking wallet. I'm not necessarily sure that a snapped wallet is a long-term thing for me, but I definitely wanted to check it out, and so, yeah, keep that in mind. Anyways, live in the Deep South. The big knife name in my area is Case. Not my thing. Do you have an opinion? Case makes fine knives, but honestly, they're collector's pieces. I think if you want a good performing knife, there are lots of great options out there, but I wouldn't necessarily send you to Case first. Do I ever get new knife fatigue? Yeah, absolutely, Muse One. And I'm actually feeling that a little bit at the moment, where it's like, you know, there are some really great pieces out there in the world. But I've been having a bunch of new stuff around lately. And, you know, like this guy's good, but I'm trying my best to focus a little bit, to kind of pull back the reviews a little bit, do them a little bit more philosophical stuff, and focus on the stuff that's going to be really excellent. So, yeah, there you go. Nick Shabazz for president, says Kiefer 225. for the yeah, Keith. Hey, Keith. No, thank you. I'm not nearly corrupt enough for that. But hey, give it time. Give it time. So let's see here. What do I consider acceptable accuracy in a vintage automatic? Vintage automatic. Look, I mean, get it serviced is the number one thing, and get it regulated. If it can keep 5 or 10 seconds a day, then yeah, that sounds okay for a vintage piece. But again, I'm not a person you should talk to about accuracy because I have unrealistic expectations and desires. So there we go. Where are my straight single edge, double edge safety razor reviews? I just filmed another one recently. They take a while because I want to do a lot of shaving with them first, but they're definitely in the process there. What's my take on Holt knives? I think I've made pretty clear I'm a big fan of them. I have a Holt Spectre that's they're working on right now. I'm going to be doing a charitable thing for a Holt Spectre here coming up shortly, but yeah, they're pretty excellent. Let's see here. Is there anything I miss? Potato TRS, is there anything you miss about the time you started reviewing on YouTube? So, not this exact knife, but a knife just like it is, the very first knife I reviewed on YouTube. I sucked at it back then. I was really, really bad at reviewing. I still am in many ways. Every video I make has problems, but I don't know. I've always felt it's a decent judge of a person by how much they dislike their past work. Shows growth, I guess. Anyways, I got a lot of growing to do still is the roundabout way to do it. But at some level, one of the things I miss most is the sense of awe and wonderment. I've gotten pretty jaded at this point. You need to, I can handle a $715 Shirogorov, and my very first thoughts are just like, okay, so this is a little close in the back here, and guys, you could have put a little milling on this, and what's the Russian word for the tent ball ramp? Is somebody needs to freaking learn it. There is a big part of me that is, my first reaction is like evaluative. It's like I pounce on it, right? It's like peer review for me at this point in time. My very first feeling, although you should be kind if you're reviewing other people's work. Anyways, I digress. But my very first reaction is to jump right on it and look for faults, versus earlier, there was more of an opportunity to enjoy. I think that's still there, but it takes, I need to take the time to do that more often. So, yeah. I don't know about that. Let's see here. Jim C. asks, do you think the Loch Ness Monster is real? Thank you very much for the kind donation, Jim C. Personally, so we actually did a honeymoon in Inverness, Scotland, which is literally Ness is in the freaking name. So we spent a couple of days on Loch Ness, and took the boat tour and everything. I did not see the Loch Ness Monster while I was there. This is not, by the way, that is not evidence. That is an anecdote. There is a difference between evidence and anecdotes. Data and anecdote are not the same thing. But nevertheless, to my taste, I did not see a Loch Ness Monster, but I'm not necessarily going to vouch either way. The world is full of mysteries, although that's pretty damn mysterious. Cowboy Swami, thoughts on the Citizen 0100 movement, plus or minus 1 second a year? I want. If they weren't $7,000 right now for a non-lume dress watch, I'd own one. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Let's see here. What do we got here? We got some other folks talking about other sea creatures. That's fun. Nick, what was the Holy Grail that got away? Probably the Holy Grail. I don't know that that's been found, so that's a good question. But aside from that, I bet you're talking about my collection. Holy Grail that got away. I missed the Seamaster Planet Ocean watch a couple of, on occasion, but then I remember how heavy it was. I really don't feel like there's anything that I've sold and I wish I hadn't sold, where if I could snap my fingers and it would come back to me. No, I don't feel like there's anything like that. There were so many really good choices there that, I don't know, that one doesn't particularly do it for me. Seems like what's going on with the Norsemans? They're asking about the Grimson Norseman. Seems like the market is flooded and secondhand prices are tanking. I think that's exactly what's going on. I think they've gotten to the point now where for a long time there weren't enough of them on the market to make up for the demand, so they were able to charge really high prices for the knife. This used to be a $625 knife. Now it's up to $950 for exactly the same thing, and it's like, not so much. And so I think they've gotten to the point now where there are enough out there that people aren't going to be looking at them like, oh, wow, I'm going to pay those crazy prices. So you're seeing the market go down. I mean, the supply has reached the demand, and so they're starting to tank. I hope that they're going to move into like Rasks or something like that soon. I hope that they're not banking on the Norseman staying as expensive as it was forever. And I'm going to be very curious what they're going to do price-wise, because they raised the price to meet demand, and now that the secondary markets prices are going down, they're going to find themselves in a rough situation potentially. But yeah. Aaron R. asks, what knife would you recommend the Loch Ness Monster carry? That would be the Spyderco Caribbean. I feel like the size of it would be pretty good for the Nessie there. It might be easy to tuck between a fin and a body, maybe a dorsal fin, I don't know. And it's pretty thin behind the edge. And it's a good knife overall. Completely water resistant, pretty excellent there. So yeah, that's probably where I would go. Let's see here. Nick, do you feel that you should start breaking down and reviewing all things in your life, not just knives, pens, etc., but doors, coffee makers, etc.? This is an ongoing joke with my wife, and other people in my life who know about the channel. I just review everything at this point. I'm looking at everything, looking at the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. You can hand me a butter knife at a restaurant. I'm doing the full once over. You know, it's very hard for me to turn it off, right? And so I find myself with strong opinions about door handles and things like that. Right now, the handle of my apartment door is stupid because it doesn't allow you to rotate the angle of hang for the handle, which is not a great thing. And so, you know, meaning that you can't rotate, you know, which direction the knob is in, such that I could, you know, make it so that the screw hole on the knob is lower or is facing down rather than up. I think that would be smart. But it isn't. So, you know, and similarly, our current faucet is not a gem. So I have strong review intuitions about everything in life, and you should see me buying a freaking car. I am brutal. Like the salesperson, this is an actual freaking quote. So my lovely wife and I decide we're going to buy a car, right? And this was a way back. But nevertheless, we're looking at used cars because, you know, guys, and not a wealthy man. And we're looking at used cars, and we go to a dealership, right? And we're looking at, you know, Toyota RAV4s here. And they have like 3 or 4 used RAV4s. And I am just going through these cars with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, you have no idea. Look at how much of a dick I am about like a $150 pocket knife, right? So I imagine if you're asking me to spend, you know, $15,000 to $20,000 on a car. Yeah, that's going to be a whole different world. And so I am tearing this car apart. I'm tearing this car apart, so to speak, in terms of this. And the salesperson we're working with is just like watching in terror. So just like, okay, you're missing the mat on the inside here, okay? And I'm keeping a list here. I'm doing like the good, the great, the bad, the ugly on a piece of paper there. And so we find the car that we like, and, you know, we're doing a test drive, and I love the car. It's a great car. You know, she's great. It's a great car. But I still have this this huge list of things that are problematic that I intend to bring up with them. And then when we finally say, okay, I think, you know, let's talk turkey. And then once we finally sealed the deal, the salesperson was like, I thought he hated it. I thought he hated this car 100%. I thought he wanted nothing to do with this, and he was just wasting my time. Because I was just such a Nick Shabazz about it. And so, like, even her was saying, like, but how can you say all that about it and still think it's a gem? And so, unfortunately, this is just a part of my life now at this point. And it did actually help us, I think, in the process of getting financing, because they genuinely believed I was willing to walk out at any given moment. And, you know, in practice, I kind of was, because I know the tricks. But still, yeah. So we're now looking at real estate. We're pretending that we'll be able to get real estate in California, LOL. But my wife actually told our realtor ahead of time, by the way, guys, this is a thing you're going to notice. It's just who he is. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to pretend it's otherwise. But, yeah, there you go. Let's see here. LXIX Sigma... Oh, I don't even... Is that an Omicron? Omicron Theta? Whatever the heck. The opinion on the Plastic Pro clear plastic knives, disposable cutlery, medium weight utensils. So, recently I was at a restaurant. It was a Holiday Inn continental breakfast. That's not a restaurant, I digress. And they had pocket knives, and I have a review, actually, of a knife very similar to this on my channel, reviewing a disposable plastic knife, and it had that stiffening bar on the back that actually prevents you from cutting through whatever you're cutting in. It's the dumbest damn thing ever. And it angered me greatly. So as long as that particular pocket or the plastic knife doesn't have that feature, then I'll be okay with it. But otherwise, it's going to be problematic. So there you go. Nessie's in the UK. He needs a sub 3-inch slip joint. That's a really good point, Slick Slices. You might want to have some kind of a friction folder made from LC200N for Nessie. But anyways, yeah, that's it. What are we doing here? Okay, looking for good questions. Excellent questions about gear, about life in general. Hand winding not on watches. This guy, the GSD number 5, I think this is, GSD 5. Either way, this is pretty damn good. It's not hacking, unfortunately, so the second hand doesn't stop when you pull it out, but aside from that, there's a lot to love about it. And no date as well. Do I shave with straight razors? Sometimes, Christian, only when I am not in a hurry. If you try and shave quickly with a straight razor, you're going to have a bad time. But yeah, there you go. Let's see here. Steelwood Plague Doctor. Love the name. Interesting design. Fine. Let's see here. Anything else? Actually, folks, I am thinking I should probably go on ahead and stop. It's been a good ways. It's been a good run here, and it's been a joy talking with you all. Thank you very much for everybody who came in, everybody who donated, everybody who was just kind and enjoyed the show. But mostly, I hope that you guys have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. And thank you very, very much. Have a good one. Bye now.